This is gonna be one of those short videos, you know, you say you drop into the office or you're picking up groceries for your wife and that, and you just have like a few seconds to kind of listen to what's going on in the watch world, right? So there is a lot of rumors that have been swirling over the past year, maybe even longer on that note of discontinuation for the GMT Master Pepsi. That's the red and blue, in case you didn't know. I know you know, but I'm just saying. That one, we've been talking about it for a minute. I'm also turning 40. I'm debating whether I should go the Porsche route and maybe a Taycan. EV's been my thing. I'm coming from a Tesla. I had the Panamera for a little bit of time and I was like, you know, do we go back to the traditional way and enjoy the engine sound, or you stick to the EV world? Or maybe bin it all together and kind of look at a Nautilus, in any Nautilus, and stainless steel bracelet, right? So that's not the topic for this video. I don't know why I'm drifting. But going back to this Pepsi, it seems reasonable to actually come and think that this 2024 Watches and Wonders, Rolex might just pull the plug on it. The aftermarket prices are gonna go through the roof, and everyone's gonna be like, yeah, I need to bank it now. I need to go pick up that Pepsi because it's about to get called off and there's gonna be a lot of premiums to make. You don't wanna look at watches that way, but generally, I have a take on this. This is the most iconic classic watch Rolex had ever made when it comes to the GMT line. It's always the Pepsi. We grew up on the red and blue, right? So we thought this is the one. I don't think Rolex is just gonna pull the plug on it completely. If they do, it would be a transition from the 1-2 reference to the succeeding 1-3 reference. So that's one way to look at it. The other scenario, of course, is Rolex pulls it out completely, but then they have no buy red bezel in the entire collection. So maybe that calls out for the Coke back again. It was discontinued 17 years ago. Since 2007, this is a good time to bring it by popular demand. And I think the demand for it will far supersede whatever the discontinued Pepsi would bring. Personally, I remain skeptical about Rolex calling out their most iconic GMT Master from the collection. I don't think this is going to be the way they want to treat this. To me, this whole thing about Rolex pulling out a reference or bringing a new one, it seems like a decision, a strategic one made by the higher ups at Rolex. Maybe influenced by the market preference, I'm not really sure. But I feel like someone is sitting there on the screen and kind of pressing one button, discontinue versus launch. What I'm trying to get at here is that today I cannot help but bring the conspiracy theorist out of me, and I gotta say this is my take on it. If you are the one to believe the rumors online, deliveries of the GMT Master 2 has been sluggish, Rolex, the $10.7 billion name, cannot just make enough of them, you are the one who just keeps with rumors, because that can't be the case, man. Rolex is known not only to produce over 1 million watches a year, but in fact capable of running these watches under rigorous testing and quality control measures, all while keeping up with the volume, right? So they've just extended their operations, so they are more than capable to keep with that demand. So I don't think it's the combination of the red and blue bezel that they can produce. I just think Watches and Wonders 2024 is around the corner. I'm gonna be there, by the way, so if you're there, pop by if you see me and say hi. But going back to the point, I don't think they have any production issues. I think this is just a game, and that leads me to believe two things. Like, even if we say there's gonna be a change, because there's always gonna be a change, it would come down to these 2 points. One, let's say Rolex decides to pull the plug on the Pepsi completely, right? That, of course, is going to cause a frenzy in the pre-owned market industry, and you would assume, of course, that this would cause the demand to skyrocket. And it's logical to say that this would happen if Rolex decides to retire the Pepsi completely, altogether. However, I don't think so. I don't think they're just gonna pull the plug on their most iconic watch and just leave it like that. They can either replace it with a new reference, so call out the 1-2, bring in the 1-3, so that can happen, or replace the blue with the black bezel, hence the Coke. That absolutely makes sense. It's been called out 17 years ago. 2007 is when they stopped it. So that can also happen, right? In the case that Rolex just updates the reference, I don't think that would lead to any additional demand. The selective collector is, of course, after the Gen 1, the Mark 1, and that's already in the market, and we've seen the premiums for it, and that would be their preference. They would go for that one. And to the newcomer, on the other hand, of course, they want the latest and greatest, the latest iteration. I want the blue and red bezel, but I want the latest one. So where is really the demand going to be generated from, right? I don't understand how it could supersede the existing demand right now that we see in the market. I mean, this buzz about the Pepsi and discontinuation, and it's this most sought after stainless steel GMT has been there, and it's a beautiful watch. I personally own one and I absolutely love it, but I don't think it's going to pace with what we've seen previously for demand, right? We're past COVID, we're past this period where people don't know where to put their money, and the collector who's selective had already gone and picked up his Mark 1. That's the first gen, the first iteration of the Pepsi, right? So that's really cool. The newcomer, on the other hand, is going to be after the latest and greatest. So they're not really going to look at the Gen 2 or the discontinued previous generation of the Pepsi. They want the latest one. So in fact, I think the latest one would pick up more demand than the previous discontinued one if they just update the reference. Now on the flip side of the coin, if Rolex decides to reissue the 17 years old discontinued Coke, that in my opinion is going to have demand that far supersedes whatever new iteration of Pepsi Rolex puts out. Because by popular demand, people had been anticipating this. I think it's a new colorway, at least within the context of this reissue. I think that would pick up more. I think even that can create room for Rolex to bring back the LN GMT, right? That's the one with the green second hand or the green GMT hand. There's an opportunity for them to bring it back, give you the option on Oyster or Jubilee. I think that's going to be interesting because it's just a subtle, nice, all-rounder GMT. Let's summarize these 3 points. In my opinion, I think it's highly unlikely that Rolex will discontinue completely the BLRO. They might update the reference, and if they call it off, it will be out for a short period of time and replace with the Coke and then adding the LN reference. That's the all-black GMT, so that could happen. A Coke GMT reissue wouldn't just spice up things for Rolex, but it would shake things across the whole watch industry because this is a legacy design language on the GMT that has just been brought back. So that's going to be the case for this Coke. I think it would far supersede discontinuation of just the Pepsi. The second reason, by popular demand, people had been anticipating the reissue of the Coke, right? So I feel like there's a collector sitting there saying, I wish Rolex can bring back the Coke, put it on a Jubilee, a new updated movement. That would be interesting, where you see the Swiss made by 6 o'clock. I think this is an iteration and an update that by popular demand that has been highly anticipated. So I think these are my 2 reasons. But on a separate note, I want a Nautilus, right? Any variation of a stainless steel Nautilus, the market right now with the fluctuation and the prices going down already has it set on a much lower price point than what it used to be this time around. Last year, I hear from friends and what's not and collectors in my ecosystem here that the price might even dip further and I should just sit it out and wait a little bit. I'm actually okay with picking it up right now, but I don't know. I'm thinking, I'm in the market. So if you have thoughts on that, if you own a Nautilus or you've just acquired one from the secondary market, please let me know in the comment section down below. How much did you pay? Was it a good shout overall? I look forward to reading that. Also, please add in the comment section down below your thoughts about this whole discontinuation situation for the Pepsi, the BLRO. Are they going to call it off completely? Are they just going to replace it with a Coke bezel? Let me know your thoughts. I'm always interested to read them. This is it for the short video, and I'll catch you up in the next one. Take care.